All right, so audience, we're here today with a very special guest, very special friend of mine, Hughes Barton.
It's good to be here, man.
Thanks for coming in, Hughes. Really appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Today we're gonna dazzle the guests and just kind of talk to them about golf, but specifically what they need to know and why they should listen today is because you're a guy that has done what 99% of golfers will never do, which is break 70.
That's true.
And you've done it a couple times, right?
A couple times.
So it wasn't just luck. There's a
Well,
pattern here.
There probably was a little bit of luck that day, but no, there's. I'd like to think there's some skill involved. You know.
No doubt. Definitely a great golfer. And so,
Bottom line, if they listen to this golf episode over and over again, they'll be playing mediocre golf in no time, and I mean it.
and that's what we're really shooting for most guys.
Right.
Because look, we're giving tips, but most guys are probably not going to break mediocre.
It's probably
That's
true.
that's a
It's the
statistical.
world we live in.
That's the world we live in.
Yes.
Everybody can't be as good as you, Hughes.
They can't.
That's
They
a
can
fact.
be as good as me at many other things, probably better, but not golf.
Not golf,
Statistically.
statistically.
Yes.
Before we go further, can I just ask a question, like seriously? Because I don't have like things like this.
Ask me whatever you want, bro.
Most of the time, when you get ready to play golf, you're better than the people you're playing with.
You know what?
No.
Yes and no.
As of recently, it's got to change.
As of recently, I joined a course in Murfreesboro, Stones River. The regular foursome that I play with is my dad and two or three of his buddies.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely like the fourth or fifth best person in that four or fivesome. So,
Which is crazy. And those guys are at least in their 50s, right?
oh yeah, my dad's 60. I think the youngest one of the group's like 55, and then the oldest one's 70. And they all can just flat out play, man. They're good players.
They're whipping you around the course.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They teach
A
you.
lot of course knowledge they have that I don't have about that course, but they hit the ball very, very well. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Well, that's cool. Well, in that case, we're going to end the interview and try to get one of those guys on.
Yes, that's a good move right there. I'll put in some calls.
Okay, Hugh, seriously. Where I'd like to start today is just to kind of talk about how you guys started in golf.
Sure.
Right. I want to go through, and just talk about your full journey.
Mm-hmm.
But let's start from the beginning. When did you first kind of get acquainted with golf? Not necessarily start playing, but when did you first start getting
Right.
acquainted? Maybe start watching or whatever.
I would say the first few times I went out there, I was anywhere from 8 to 9 years old, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe even as young as 6 or 7. But that was, my dad buying me a junior set and taking me out there with him. And, at that age, I'm sure you can relate, or a lot of people can relate. The person you looked up who's doing it, you're going to want to do it too. It's not really the interest in that specific thing, just doing what they're doing. So when I went out there first, bless my dad's heart, man, he had enough struggle just keeping me in the cart and not like going down the river and looking at fish, and just like I was interested in everything but golf,
Yeah.
So it's changed a lot since then, but that's kind of the roots that I grew up on.
Yeah. So kind of sounds like your dad really inspired you to get started.
Definitely.
And I bet at times, having been somebody that's been out there recently, if I had a little 7 or 8 year old, there'd be some days I wanted to leave you at home. So kudos to him.
Definitely.
For getting you out there and getting you started young.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were riding down the road probably a week or two ago, and he was telling me my parents split up probably 5 or 6 years ago amicably. They have a great relationship now, better than when they were married, ironically enough. But he would constantly want to go play golf. She wasn't crazy about him playing golf all the time, so he was telling me a story or something. And he was like, it got a little better, when you got interested in it.
Yeah.
And I just stopped him and I was like, Is that why you got me interested in golf? And he was like, had a lot to do with it. Had a lot to do with it. So
Strategic.
I was a pawn, so to speak. But I mean, I'm grateful for it, man. He's taught me a lot. So
That's awesome, man. I know your dad is a expert strategist, so
yes,
didn't expect any less there.
yeah.
So when did you first start actually swinging the sticks?
Like taking it a little more seriously,
more
I guess.
serious, yeah.
I would say 11 or 12. But by that time, I had met a good group of guys, or I guess kids at that age that are around my same age, and we were all about it, man. My mom, she'd pick me up, or excuse me, take me to the course at like 7:30, 8 in the morning, and she'd just come back at dark. And I'd hang out there all day, eat lunch, and we'd just play, man. I mean, we probably should have been practicing a lot more than we were.
Yeah.
But we just wanted to play. We'd have little games going on between ourselves and betting cokes and everything else, and just being able to beat the people that you're playing with, your buddies, and being able to brag about it. That was all it took for us to really get into it. So.
That's awesome. When you guys were playing at that age, did you play like a full 18 or did you play 9 or what?
Oh man, yeah, we played 27 to 36 holes a day.
Holy smokes!
Yeah,
at 11 and 12 years old.
Oh yeah,
damn, that's low.
We'd walk, and we had to walk the whole time because we were too young to have a cart. You had to be 16 to get a cart.
Wow.
So we just walked. But yeah, we try to get in at least 18, but we'd shoot for 27 and sometimes 36.
Man.
So, yeah.
Okay. Side note. What is the most holes you've shot in a day?
So, I've actually played 54 holes in a day. I've done it a couple of times now. You've got to have a lot of luck on your side. You got to have a lot of players willing to let you go through. You got to play quickly, obviously, which has never really been, even on my worst golf days. I like playing quick. I prefer to play quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, 54 a couple of times, and it was, man, I loved it. The first time I did it, I think I shot like 79, 78, 76, or 5, like the 3 rounds. So I was getting better each round, and which was kind of wild. But the more I thought about it, was like my swing just kind of got into this like comfortable little groove, and everything just felt so familiar, Yeah. Almost redundant. So
yeah, that's awesome that you have that level of endurance. I mean, I've talked to other guys like say, oh, let's go play. Well, when we've talked about playing 36 or whatever,
right?
And some of our friends are like, I just can't swing the club that many times. My back is gonna after start breaking into that 20 holes range. Like I can't. It hurts too bad. So that's incredible that you're able to do that.
Now we played 36 at Golden Eagle. Remember me, you, and Matt?
And that was a blast.
Yeah,
and
you had fun, didn't you?
I had a blast.
Yeah,
and that was after daylight savings time, or when is it when the days get shorter, right?
Yes.
So we timed that perfectly.
We squeezed it in.
You're
but we did stop for lunch in the middle, so we had a little bit of
Now your 54 must have been during the summertime.
So my 54 was actually in November, believe it or not, but it was when I was living in North Carolina.
I got you.
So we woke up on the last day of the morning of a golf trip, me and a buddy that I lived with over there, and we played a course at like 8 or 9 in the morning, and we were done by like maybe 11 or so.
Yeah.
And I drove back probably 2 hours. It was about 3 hours back to Mooresville where I was staying, and I went into this city called Lumberton. And I was on the way back, and I was like, man, when I get home, I'm just going to sit on the couch the rest of the day. Like, I don't have anything planned. And I got to go to work tomorrow. I'm not going to play golf till next weekend. I got to thinking about it, and I got on my phone, looked up golf courses in the area. There's a course in Lumberton. So I pulled over at this little rinky-dink golf course in Lumberton, Pine Crest or something. I can't remember what it was.
Kind of like a Cedar Crest here or something.
Yeah, well, Pinehurst is a series of courses over in North Carolina that they're tremendous golf courses. So I think a lot of courses that I've noticed over in North Carolina kind of bite off the name a little bit to kind of give it a little bit of, sex appeal, I guess, with the name value,
Yeah.
But I pulled over and I was like, yeah, I'll just get 18 in, it'll be fun. I was just by myself, obviously. And I rifled through the first 18 in like maybe an hour 45, hour 50 minutes. I mean, every group let me play through that I ran up on. And it was a shorter golf course, so the holes were very condensed, And I got back to the clubhouse, and it was like probably like 3:30 or so. And I was like, man, I got like 3 or 4 more hours of daylight left. So I thought about it, and I went in there, and I was like, hey, man, what's the replay rate here? He was like, $10. I was like, man, saddle me up. I'm going another 18. So I went another 18 for $10, got done with like 30 or 40 minutes left of daylight to spare, and drove on back to Mooresville. So it was a blast, dude. I had a blast.
That's wild. That's awesome, man. Now, you're telling me you played 54 holes in a day, and you drove for 2 or 3 hours in that same day.
Yeah.
How many holes do you think you could get in on a long summer day?
Man, if you gave me a short course like that, it especially if you gave me a short course with like a small group of people, 1 or 2, 3 guys, and I didn't have to wait on anybody, I mean, I think 72 on a summer day would be easy. I mean, I don't think it would be any issue at all. And that'd be 4 rounds. So
would you be dead at the end?
I'd be tired for sure.
Yeah.
I did 52 holes or something earlier this year with our friend Matt.
Yeah.
And it was me, him, and a couple of guys for the first round, a couple different guys in the middle round. It was just me and him for the last round.
Yeah.
And I think on like hole 15 of the last round or 16, he pulled a muscle in his back. And he couldn't even take the club back, dude. He was like, I'm done. He's like, I can't swing. He was in so much pain. So I mean, could have just as easily been me, you know. So, but he'll tell you it was a blast. I mean, we'll try to do it again this summer, I'm sure at some point. But life's too short, man. I mean, play another round. Who cares?
Play another
round.
Love it. Life is too short. Play another round.
Play another round.
Look,
put that on a T-shirt right there, man.
That's ours.
That's ours.
And you will be sued.
It's trademark.
If you try. It's trademark.
Don't ever. Yeah.
You'll be
locked it down.
That's awesome. Well done. Okay.
We're gonna drop gems on this podcast, so write them down when you hear them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But don't steal anything.
Don't steal anything.
You can use it.
Yeah.
Don't try to make any money.
Right. Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. Okay. Sorry, I had to get a sip in there. So going back to
Do you go straight black coffee?
straight black, man.
Damn, that's hardcore, dude.
I haven't put sugar or cream in it in years.
I want to drink black coffee.
Yeah.
But it tastes so bad.
It's an acquired taste.
Almost to the point where I just put up with it tasting bad, just to be like, just black.
Do you drink coffee at all?
Nah.
Okay.
Nah, dude. When I drink coffee, I have to put so much cream and sugar in it that it kind of makes it terrible for you. So I don't drink it at all.
I understand.
Yeah.
So going back, we stopped at you and your friend group, and that was about middle school, right?
Yep. That was probably 5th, 6th grade. Okay.
So
something like that.
Just before like real middle school era.
Sure. Yeah. Right in that area.
You told me before you played for Siegel.
Yes.
And the Siegel middle school team was like loaded, right?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Man, we just had a stacked roster. It was me and 4 or 5 of the guys that I play with regularly out at Stones River.
Yeah.
And we were very fortunate to grow up near a course that it wasn't public, it was private, and I didn't have to pay for every round individually, so I just got in a lot more golf, I think, than the average kid did.
Yeah.
And I tried to take advantage of it, obviously. But there are 4 or 5 of us that were all from that same course. And also, we had 1 or 2 guys from like the Riverdale side of town, Jason Millard, and I can't remember the other guy, but Jason was obviously the big name.
Now he played pro golf.
He played pro golf.
Yeah.
Yes. But he's a phenomenal player. Obviously, actually, I played with him the day of tryouts for Siegel Middle School. He played in my group, and I had a pretty good idea that I was going to make the team because I was a pretty decent player. But it was still nervous. I mean, growing up, playing in junior tournaments and stuff, like, everyone knew who Jason Millard was. You know what I mean? He was the real deal even back then.
Oh, wow.
And so the first time I played with him was tryouts for Siegel Middle School. And we're on hole number 5 at Stones River. Yep. And I remember he had a Titleist J driver, I believe at the time, which was like the driver. That was the hot ticket item at that time, And, man, he got up and just laced it. I mean, right down the middle, little right to left draw. And I was like, damn, dude, he's as advertised. You know what I mean? Like, even then, like,
believe
it was
the
like,
hype.
Yeah. I mean, he just was. I think he shot maybe 1 or 2 under on that round. We're talking a 9-hole round, and he was 14, 13 years old,
In
something
middle
like
school,
that.
He's shooting under.
Yeah.
This guy's a freak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. You mentioned before that you guys were so good that that you were actually left out of a big tournament.
Yeah, so the year before I got there, they were still good. I think even maybe a couple of years before that, they were very good. They just had a good run.
Yeah.
And it pulls from the Siegel side of town, tad bit wealthier than the rest of the schools.
Yeah.
Golf's an expensive game.
Yeah.
So all these kids that are able to go to and play a lot of golf and practice a lot, they're zone Siegel.
Ah, yeah.
So they had quite a run before I got there. But my I want to say it was my 7th grade year. They didn't invite us to the district tournament. At the time, I believe it was invitation only, and they had won it like 2 years in a row, and they just didn't invite us, which was kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, we had 6 or 7 guys that could play, and you only could take 5, and you took 4 of the top scorers. But we were killing schools in matches. You know, it wasn't even close. So it was like, to us, it was like, oh, like y'all didn't want the smoke, basically. Y'all knew if y'all invited us, we'd come and, you know, take care of business. So that's what we all told each other. I don't know what the real reason was, but it was kind of weird that we didn't get an invitation to the district tournament. So,
but it sounds like exactly what you might think it is. They want a more competitive tournament.
Call a spade, right?
You just call it what it is.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Those guys that were there, obviously they went on and played high school around here too.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about your high school experience. Did you have some of these same guys? I know you went to Oakland, so did you have some of these same guys at Oakland with you?
So I had nobody from the Siegel Middle School team that went to Oakland. I was the only one.
Okay.
The majority of the kids went to Siegel High School.
And you told me before you wanted to go to Oakland, right?
I had the option to go to Oakland.
Yeah.
My parents graduated from Oakland. My grandpa was like the first Oakland football coach.
Yeah.
There's just kind of a lot of history there, you know, and to me, I was proud to go to Oakland. I wanted to be a part of Oakland, you know.
Ray Hughes Stadium. That's your granddad.
Ray Hughes Stadium. That's him.
Awesome.
So to me, it meant a lot. Yeah. And I just didn't want to be the kid that went to, you know, my grandpa's name's on the stadium and I go to Siegel. You know what I mean? Right. So, and you can attest, there was a pretty bitter rivalry between Siegel and Oakland while we were in high school.
No doubt.
It was, I mean, fights after basketball games. I mean, you name it, it happened.
Yeah.
But that's what made it good. That's what made it fun. So I don't even know if it's the same way as it was, honestly. But so yeah, I didn't have any of the same teammates. Mm-hmm. I got to Oakland and we went from drilling everybody at Siegel Middle, and I got to Oakland and we were the bottom of the barrel. Yeah. The number 2 guy, he'd break 90 sometimes, and the 3 and 4 and 5 guys, I mean, they were in the hundreds. Yeah. It was a wake up call.
So I might as well have been on the damn team.
You could have been on the squad, man. Just come out there. Yeah. Man. We had tryouts, in fact, in the side yard by the baseball field. Yeah. So other schools are going to golf courses for tryouts, and we're hitting balls in the side of the Oakland baseball field yard. So just, you know, we're playing checkers, they're playing chess, you know. Yeah. So but no, it was humbling. For me, I hated it because I hate losing. Yeah. I just hate it more than just about anything, honestly. And there was a lot of that, and it was out of my hands. Yeah. So to be stuck in it and know you're going to lose, that's a tough feeling, and that you can't really alter the outcome, so to speak. Yeah. It's very tough. So, but character building nonetheless. So that's good.
That brings me to something you said before. I think you said your dad told you, and it's
about losing.
About losing. What's the quote?
Yeah. So he told me when I was younger. He told me a long time ago. He said, "Show me a good loser, and I'll show you a loser." Is what he told me. And basically, it sounds arrogant, and I can definitely see how it sounds like that. But to me, it meant to not be satisfied with losing. The people that accept losing and are satisfied with losing will always be in that situation.
Absolutely.
And they'll grow complacent. They'll grow comfortable with it. And it'll be the norm to them. Right. And then working hard or winning will be, kind of out of character for them, so to speak. They won't really, go after it as hard, I guess, or as much.
Yeah. I have to say 100% agree. I mean, I think you and I have talked about this a little bit before, and, there's a way you have to learn to lose, I think, as well.
Sure.
But, I don't think that quote's arrogant. I think it's absolutely 100% accurate. If you start settling for that and that becomes, you're okay with losing. Right. You're not going to achieve greatness. No. You're going to just decline. So I 100% agree with that. I don't think it's arrogant at all. So rough experience, just going kind of backwards there, going from something that's like really...
Yeah, it was It was tough, man.
Hey,
It was tough.
I was there at Oakland, if you recall.
Yes.
And I briefly played football.
Right.
And we had somewhat of a.
You experienced some losing of your own, didn't
We
you?
experienced a little losing.
Yeah.
We experienced a little losing, which that brings me to my next one of
Sure.
the questions I wanted to ask you about this. And it is around coaching, right? When I played, of course I didn't play golf, but when I was playing high school sports, one of the main reasons I quit was I didn't enjoy my coach, right? I didn't think that the coach was that great. And so, with your situation, and I think that's the reason that that we weren't very good in high school because of the coaching. Do you think coaching affected golf as well, or no?
Yes, but not as much as other sports. Our coach at Oakland, Coach Johnson, good guy, but he wasn't very savvy when it came to golf. You know what I mean? He wasn't a good player.
Yeah.
He's not somebody that you would take pointers from. I mean, he's shooting in the 90s himself. So it's not to say if you can't play golf, you can't teach it, because the guy that I take lessons from, or that I used to take lessons from, he wasn't a very good player, but he knows the golf swing inside and out.
Yeah.
So many other factors attribute to shooting a good golf score in terms of course management and, knowing where to miss and just a variety of things.
Yeah.
So you can know the golf swing but not be a good golfer. It's very possible.
Yeah.
But he just didn't really, he wasn't as familiar with the game as I was. He didn't play as much golf as me. I was raised to be polite to everyone, and I definitely didn't bump heads with him or anything much, but it's not somebody that I would have sought advice from, so to speak. So,
yeah.
But what would help, what I thought helped, was the other coaches, they followed us around a lot more on the golf course than Coach Johnson did. And I think mentally it helps to kind of have someone there, to, kind of maybe take away some of the negative things you might be thinking, or let you got 18 holes, put it behind you, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think motivationally it can help for sure, because golf is so, you hear people say things like it's 80% mental or 90% mental, and they're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's so very important to stay even keel on the golf course. Yeah. You make a birdie, you can't get caught up in the excitement of that birdie, because that birdie's not going to help you on the next hole. Yeah. The next hole doesn't care what you made on the hole before it. It's going to be played the exact same way, regardless. It's not going to respect you any more or less. It's a hole. It's not human. Yeah. So when you have a birdie or when you have a bogey, it's important to not to get too caught up in the success or the negativeness of making a bogey or a double or something like that. Yeah. When you make a bogey or a double, you have to put it behind you. You can't let it carry over into the next hole and just compound the same mistake over and over again. Yeah. Because those big numbers just they'll screw up your round faster than anything else will.
Yeah.
So
yeah. There was a quote you mentioned recently, it wasn't a quote. I'm sorry. You were talking about Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
And you were saying how good he was at when he made a mistake, he just let it go.
Yes. Yeah. Kobe, man, I saw an interview. I've seen several interviews of him saying something along the lines of this, but basically they would ask him, he'd have a night of like 7 of 25 from the field. Yep. Horrific shooting night, but he just kept shooting, and because he always thought the next one was going in. Yeah. It didn't matter if he missed 20 in a row; he was making the 21st in his eyes. It was going in before he shot it, and people hear that and they think, oh, like he's just cocky or da 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 da, and it's like, well, he puts hours and hours and hours into his craft in the gym, behind closed doors, not in front of an audience. He knows himself better than anyone, and he has to have that supreme belief that just because he missed 20, the 21st won't go in. If you think you're gonna miss it before you get up there and hit it, you're gonna miss it. It's done. Absolutely. It's over with.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, it's I think something that a lot of athletes struggle with because you can't get caught up and you got to leave that shit behind.
Sure.
You got to move forward. But I know plenty of times I've in my brief golf career, kind of sounds funny to say that, but I've been playing almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
And I know plenty of times I have had some messed up shot, and then like for instance, you've seen me on Smyrna on one, I'll hit it over behind the damn trees.
Sure.
And another thing I love that you've told me to do, which has been excellent advice, is what you call take your medicine.
Yes.
And what I'll end up doing is I'll see a row of trees. Now I've seen a meme on it, which is it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's this guy where he's like, I'm gonna try to make it through these trees right here.
Right.
It's like
Trying to thread a needle.
right.
Right. That just kills me because, you're setting up, he's telling you, yeah, that gap right there, that 8-foot gap, I'm pretty sure I can hit it. And it's like, well, you just missed a 40-yard fairway. But I mean, hey, swing away. You know what I mean? Like
right.
that's why we're here, because you missed the 40-yard fairway.
Right.
So I don't know why you think you're going to hit this 8-foot gap. But mentally, man, like there's things that I've picked up on over the years. And like one thing is like putting's my favorite part of the game. It's what I'm best at.
Yeah.
So I kind of cater my game around that. I always think to myself, like, if I can just give myself a putt at it, I'll have a chance, And for me, like, I go through the same routine every time on the putting green. Everything's got to be just so, because it's just like shooting a free throw in basketball. Whatever your routine is, you dribble it 3 times, you spin it, whatever you do, it needs to be the same thing over and over again. You need to get it as close to muscle memory as you possibly can.
Yeah.
So with putting, I'm looking at it once I find out my spot, like which is the line I want to start the ball on. Right before I take the putter back, in my head I say, "You're a great putter. This is what great putters do."
That's that every time.
Every time.
Yeah.
That's what I tell myself.
Yeah.
I don't always make the putt, but for me, it's a reminder that you've done this time and time and time again, and you have just as good of a chance to do it right now in this moment.
Yeah.
So, it helps to not beat yourself up and not be so hard on you, which I can definitely tend to do sometimes. You hit a bad shot and you're mad at yourself and you're angry and you're frustrated, and you kind of lose sight of the fact that this is a game. I mean, for 99.9% of us, it's a game.
Yeah.
It's a competitive game, and you might have $20 on the line. I was like, but you're not Brooks Koepka, hitting at the 16th green at Scottsdale in front of thousands of people.
Yeah.
And even if you are, it's a game for him too.
Yeah.
The stakes are just higher. That's the only difference.
No doubt.
So,
You mentioned putting. I've heard a saying. It's what is it? It's a drive for show, putt for dough. Is that true?
yes. But I'll go one more to that saying, because I do believe that saying.
Yeah.
But somebody told me once, you drive it well, you can play. You putt it well, you can score. And what that means is, if you can hit your tee ball straight, out of trouble consistently, and you strike your irons well, and you can get them around the green,
Yeah.
you can play golf. You can play successful golf.
Yeah.
You can minimize your mistakes. If you're not hitting it out of bounds and you're hitting greens, as long as your putting isn't abysmal, you can play, bogey golf, no problem.
Yeah.
But putting is how you score, because it doesn't matter how far you hit it, or how good your iron game is. At the end of it, you're going to have to make a putt. The best guys in the world, the guys on the PGA Tour, the top iron players, they're still hitting it on average when they hit the green, anywhere from 20 to 27 feet away from the hole. So at that point, these are the best. At that point, it comes down to making a putt. That's what changes the number on your scorecard. You're already on the green, and those guys don't miss a lot of greens. They're hitting 60 to 70% of their greens. They're not missing a lot of greens.
Yeah.
But the difference in the guys that take it to the next level is they're going to make 4 or 5 of those putts over the course of a round.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what changes it for me.
And I have to say, I totally take all your advice on putting, because I've seen you be a lights out putter. But I also believe what you're saying, because I have had rounds where, in my short little, it's very rare I get to be like, I did really good,
Right.
And But I've had plenty of times where I'm on the green and like, I'm on the green in 3, or 4, and I'm like not too far from the hole. It's a makeable putt,
Right.
and so I've got like maybe I'm putting for bogey, and then it becomes like a triple bogey,
Right.
or a quadruple, and it's because I can't putt worth the shit.
Sure.
So yeah, I totally see the value in working on that.
Now, I was with you when you made your first birdie at Golden Eagle.
Yeah.
And you played that hole great. It was a par 5. It was a dogleg right. It was coming down the hill on your second shot to a green. Mm-hmm. And I believe you hit driver, maybe that hybrid, and then you had some kind of like a half wedge or something into the green, but you hit it 15 feet from the hole. Even though you played it well, even though you hit a great drive, great hybrid, great wedge shot, we're not talking about it if you missed that putt. It's irrelevant. You've made pars before. The reason I'm bringing it up is you made the putt, and that's how you got your first birdie.
Yeah.
So,
that's easily one of those I'm talking about where I could have turned that into a triple bogey.
Right.
Easily.
And putting is one of those things where I feel like most people could vastly improve their putting. Even people that struggle a lot could vastly improve their putting, because in putting you're taking the putter back or the club back shorter than any other distance that you of a club that you swing. Mm-hmm. Drivers, irons, all that. You're taking full swings with those. There is plenty of time for the club to get off plane or the face to be open or shut down at impact. You know what I mean? And then even if you make square contact, maybe you judge the yardage wrong. Maybe you know what I mean? Putting, to me, man, it's the easiest part of the game. And I know you're thinking, okay, well, you're good at putting. That's why it's easiest for you. And maybe there's something to that. But at the same time, I like to think that there's only so much that can go wrong when you're taking the club back right here.
Absolutely.
Like, me and Brooks Koepka, he might take the club back slightly straighter than me and straighter all the way through, but it ain't by much. But the reason is, he can probably read greens better than me. He can judge speed better than me and pace. But these are all things that can be worked upon. Yeah. A golf swing has has so many tweaks and
so much more going on. There's
right.
so much more option. There's so much more opportunity for error in there.
Your left arm tweaks a little bit and it collapses and it shuts the face down and the whole swing. It doesn't matter that you did the other 90 things right.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter because you did that one thing wrong. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
That's the point I'm trying to make, I guess, is that there's less room for error. I guess.
Can't argue with you because I've seen guys. I won't say any names, but we know some guys that are really decent drivers.
Yes.
And they're not too bad.
Matt Burnham.
And in other areas.
Sorry, Matt.
They can't putt to save their lives.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I know what you're saying.
Man, the other day I played, maybe it was yesterday. Played a hole at Stones River. It was 350 yards. So par 4. I hit driver, and I had maybe a 9-iron into the green. I hit the green with my 9-iron, 25 feet from the hole. On my first putt, I was too aggressive with it. Those greens are very fast, and I ran it by 6 feet probably. Then I missed the putt coming back. So on that hole, I covered 347 yards of the 350 yards in 2 shots. And then it took me 3 shots to cover the remaining 4 yards or 5 yards, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But you see how frustrating and unnecessary that is.
Talk about being pissed off. And now let me ask you this to go back. Did you carry that to the next hole?
Man, made a par the next hole, so we got out of the woods there.
Got it corrected.
Yeah, but that part that always baffles me.
Yeah.
Because I think a 3-putt is. There are a few things on the golf course that could happen that irritate me more than a 3-putt. Yeah. I feel like I'm just handing strokes to my opponent. You know what I mean? Like that just crawls all over me.
It sounds like you are.
It is. I mean, because that's my strength, and I'm turning it into my weakness when I 3-putt. Yeah. So it crawls all over me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, we know you're a good putter. What would you say the weakest part of your game is?
The weakest part of my game is hands down running away with it. My iron play.
Okay.
My iron play is poor. It is poor. There's no other way to say it.
And the irons, can you tell me which, like,
You know,
just like four through 9?
from a 5-iron all the way up to a pitch and wedge, anywhere in that span. Actually,
okay.
pitch and wedge is probably my favorite club in the bag, so
Okay.
we'll leave out that. But 5 to 9-iron,
5 to 9. Okay.
which isn't good because you're hitting those quite a bit.
Yeah.
The reason I think I'm able to score still fairly well is that I'm very conscious of where to miss with my irons. So I think my misses aren't as bad as other players. So it might even, if somebody's not very, if I'm playing with my dad, so we played together a week or two ago, and didn't have a good round. He didn't play well either. Well, the next day we're headed back out there and we're riding to the course together. And I was like, man, I hope I play better than yesterday, blah, 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 whatever. And he's sitting there talking to me and he goes, you know how many greens you hit yesterday in regulation? And I was like, not many. I was like, I can sit and add them up. He's like, you hit 3. He's like, you hit 3 greens in regulation. He goes, and I hit 4. He goes, neither one of us can expect to score well if we're hitting 3 or 4 greens in regulation. That's pathetic.
Yeah.
And he's right. It's terrible.
Yeah.
But I think with somebody like him, who's very intelligent and been around golf a long time, he sees that, and he sees like the inside of me hitting 3 or 4 greens. Whereas some guys I play with that maybe aren't as good or aren't as aware, they're just looking at it like I made a par on the hole. And like I did make a par, but maybe I left it below the green and I'm putting uphill, you know what I mean? Like, and I have an easy chip shot or something like that.
Yeah.
They didn't really see the fact that I missed the green. They just saw that I walked away with a 4, which is good. No harm, no foul, right?
Yeah.
But zooming out a little bit, it's like, okay, there's a bigger problem here. I'm not always going to have a great spot to miss it in. I'm not always going to miss it in the best spot. So, you can avoid a lot of trouble by hitting a lot of greens. And I think players get caught up with pin seeking and they're hitting it at the pin no matter the hole.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of the times can get you burned. It's a poor decision. For me, I tend to do it too. I'm not saying with wedges or your higher irons, like 8, 9 pitch and wedge, because I tend to pin seek a little bit with those two. You get a little more confident. You feel a little better about keeping the ball on line than you do with your 5, 6, or 7 irons. But if you have a 5 or 6 or 7 iron in your hand, you need to identify how gettable that pin is when you're in the fairway. Is it tucked behind a bunker on the right front?
Yeah.
If I hit it in that bunker, I've only got 7 feet of green to work with till I get to that pin. Well, all of a sudden, that bunker shot becomes very, very difficult to get close. So I don't want to miss it in that bunker. Yeah. So maybe I don't flirt with that pin on the right side. Maybe I hit it at the center of the green. Maybe even get a little cute. Maybe I open my stance. I try to hit a little fade and move the ball from left to right. And if it moves a little, maybe it's a little closer to the pin. But if not, I'm right smack in the middle of the green. Yeah. Worst case scenario, I'm in the middle of the green and I have a putt at it. Or even if I miss a little left, that pin's on the right side like we just discussed. So I have all that green to work with. Yeah. Which means it's going to be a lot easier to chip it or putt it and get it close to the hole so I can have a reasonable par putt to save my par.
Yeah.
So
you've said to me plenty of times that golf is really about how good your misses are.
Right. Yes.
So it sounds like
that is golf. Yeah. I mean, I can count on, as far as golf shots that I've hit exactly like I wanted it to, I don't know, maybe like 0.3% of the golf shots that I've hit in my life, I've thought I hit it exactly how I wanted it to. And the other 99.7%, I haven't. That they might have been almost what I wanted, or still really good, or terrible shots or bad shots or what have you. But ultimately, in golf, it's how good are your misses. That's really what it is. Because if we could all hit it exactly where we were looking, exactly how we wanted it to, it wouldn't even be a game. You know what I mean? We'd just be tearing it up. But that's not the case. That's not reality. So being able to identify where you can miss and where you can't miss is huge. Yeah. And you don't see that with amateur golfers.
Yep.
So.
Well, thanks for that.
With a lot of amateur golfers, I should say. There are degrees of amateurs. There are great amateur golfers. But the guys you see shooting in the 90s, 100s, 110s, they're not identifying where they can miss. Yeah. And they're not picking out targets that correlate with that thought. Mm-hmm. If I'm looking at a hole and there's water all down the right side of the hole and I'm hitting my tee ball, I feel like most golfers get up there and they're like, all right, let's just try to hit it, center of the fairway, da 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 da. And it's like, okay, well, how many times does that happen in a round? Even with the best of players, how many times do you hit it right down the middle of the fairway?
Right.
If you're like me, not often.
Yeah.
So if there's water down the right side, I'm not aiming at the middle of the fairway because if I push it a little bit right, I'm in that water. Yeah. So I'm looking at it as, okay, left side's got a few trees, but I'm not dead if I hit it over there. Yeah. When I say dead, I mean I'm not taking a stroke when I hit it over there.
Yep. So
I'm thinking, let's hit it left side of the fairway or left center. So if I do push it, I'm at the right side of the fairway and not in the water. Worst case scenario, I pull it and I'm in the trees. It's not ideal, but I can punch it out and maybe get up and down for par.
Yeah.
Whereas if I hit it in the water, I got to drop and hit 3 from 50, 60 yards out.
Right.
The odds of you hitting it close and making par after hitting a dreadful shot, probably not good.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad you point that out. That even you, being somebody that regularly shoots at least in the 70s, doesn't have this delusion that they're going to hit it down the center of the fairway all the time. I knew when I first started, and I'm confident I said this to you, I was like, I'm going to get to the point where I can just consistently hit it down the center of the fairway, and that is like just a tall task. I've tried, I've worked on, been to the driving range, and it's just to be able to consistently do it, it's tough. Another thing I want to ask you, you were just mentioning, so you said you're talking about amateur golfers, the ranges and everything. I know a lot of guys that shoot in the 90s. I would call these people decent golfers.
Yeah.
Right. If I shot in the 90s, I would think I was decent.
Well, what is it like? I think it's like, maybe 10 or 15% of golfers break 100?
Really?
Or something like that. I can't remember the exact stat, but
man,
it's people out there, because this factors in everyone. You're factoring in the guys that go out there once a week.
Yeah.
That don't practice, and expect great things. Then some don't. Some just want to go out there and have 6 beers and have a good time. And that's great about golf because you can decide the level that you want to play at or how seriously you want to take it. Yeah. It's suitable for all skill levels. That's kind of the beauty of it. But, that factors in their scores too. And they're not setting the course on fire. So you got to think about that. Yeah,
for sure. For sure. I mean, I get that. It's still, if I was shooting 90s today, I would be telling people only 15% of people can break it into make 99.
Yeah.
I would say that.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't. Anyway, I won't go any further.
Hey man,
I hope that doesn't make me seem cocky. But,
no, dude.
If I get small wins, I do blow them. I blow them way up.
When you started,
yeah,
you were horrendous.
And I'm still there.
You're not.
I'm a little less horrendous.
He's not. He's not horrendous. But there's something to be said for working on it and improving. And I feel like so many people. I'll tell you, perfect example. The girl I'm seeing, of course I'm trying to get her into golf. Why wouldn't you? I think golf's the greatest game ever. Yeah. And we're talking about it, and she's like, well, I'm going to be terrible. And it's like, yeah, absolutely you will. You will be horrible when you first play golf. But good news is, so will everyone else. The only difference is when I play with my friends now and they look at me and they're like, oh man, he shot a 77 or 75 or whatever. He played well. I'm over here shooting a 110, da 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 da. And it's like, yeah, well, I went through that.
Yeah.
But I was 12 when I went through it.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't always like that because I played until I was 18 and kind of got burnt out.
Yep.
And from like 18 to age 30, I bet I played like 5 rounds, man. And wow. The first round back.
Which is crazy to me because you
quit
12 years off.
Yeah.
And then, you picked back up in what, 2020? 2020,
me and you at the start of quarantine, really. Like April.
And for you, to me, I know you didn't like the round that you had.
No.
Your first round back was, I would sell valuable things right now to be able to shoot what you shot, just coming back after not even touching sticks in 12 years. But for you to be able to go and today still, to be able to shoot in the 70s, it's like riding a bike for you, it seems like to me.
Man, it's still, it's challenging, but there's just, like there was a groove last summer when I was playing great golf and I was shooting, I had 3 or 4 rounds consecutively under 75 or 6 and 170, which is my low since I started playing golf again.
Yeah.
And man, everything was going right. I was striking the ball well. I felt like every putt I was standing over was going in. And that's usually followed by a month or two of slumping. Yeah. And, maybe you have a little less confidence. Maybe you have a little hitch in your swing or something like that you can't get rid of, and you're blocking the ball a lot or whatever the case may be. But, when you step up to the tee and you've had the last 3 rounds be 86, 87, 84, mentally you're like, here goes an 84. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you're thinking in your head.
Yeah.
Versus, when I was shooting in the low 70s for a stretch this summer, every round I was like, man, after I shot that 70, the next round I played, I was like, I bet I can hit 69. You know what I mean? Like, because there's just so momentum. It's like a snowball rolling down the hill,
Right,
you just can't. It's a great feeling, but, enjoy it, because golf is ebbs and flows more than any other game I've ever played in my entire life.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Going back to how you said everybody sucks when they start. That is actually one of the things I think I love most about golf. Mm-hmm. Just a fact I'll say that I love most about golf. And the reason I say that is because I know a lot of people that with other sports, a lot of other sports, they can go out and not having done much with it and very quickly kind of become a decent, right? Not the case with golf. Mm-hmm. You have to put the work in.
Yeah.
You got to put the time in. And so when I see people that are good at golf, I'm like, they worked for that shit.
Sure.
And that's why I like it. It's just incredible. You've earned, I love that, you get those things in life where you really had to earn it. Golf is one of those things you really have to earn it.
Yes.
People know that play golf, like when they see somebody's good, they say, this guy has put some time in.
And you can relate because you've done the exact same thing he's done. You know exactly how hard it is.
Yeah.
When you see someone that's better than you, you're like, man, I know what I did to get here. Yeah. This guy's done more than me. He's been putting it in. You know what I mean? And that's your hat's off to him. Yeah. And you can't knock the guy. You just got to admire the fact that somebody took this game even a step further than you, and they're better than you. Yeah. So, but that's who you need to play with. That's who you need to seek out. At least for me, iron sharpens iron. So, if I can play with guys like that are beating my brains in, eventually I'm going to get tired of getting my brains beat in, and I'm going to do something to change it. Yeah. So.
And just the natural order of things. You're going to pick up stuff that they do. And that's one thing I love playing with you guys. Because all of you shoot better than me, way better than me. And so that's the stuff I've seen mostly from you. But it's definitely improved my game, even though I'm still horrendous, like I said. But
that I told you about playing with our buddy Matt. Well, you call him Dipshit. But our buddy Matt Stevens. Yeah. Right? Yeah. He's a great player. He's played on some mini tours. Yeah. He came out and played with us a month or two ago, or maybe 2 months ago. And so he hits the ball a long way.
And you said mini tours. He played like semi-pro golf, right?
Yes. Yeah. He did. So he's very, very, very good player.
Damn good.
Very strong.
Yeah.
But anyways, he came out and played with us, and he hits the ball just a mile. Yeah.
You said he sent it like 20 yards.
We were playing a hole at Indian Hills. The hole was like 375. Yeah. He was about 25, 30 yards off the front of the green.
That's what you said, yeah.
He hits the golf ball like very few do.
Incredible.
I've been around, I feel like, some pretty decent golfers. Yeah. And when he hit it, I was like, man, that's impressive. But what stood out to me about his game, I was playing with 3 other guys, and the other 3 guys were good golfers, but I don't think they've been around it as long as I have. Yeah. Now, they're great players. They beat me on several occasions, more than one occasion. We go head to head. We're rivals. Yeah. But it's easy to get lost in the theatrics of a long drive. You know what I mean? Like the sound it makes and just the way it just pierces through the air. It's just... That's the sexiest part of golf for most people is the long ball, right?
It's so sexy.
It's so sexy. Yeah. And when you crush it, man, that's just, that feeling is incredible.
It is.
But what blew me away was he started playing with us on hole 12. Now, he had, in the last 7 holes he played with us, 12 to 18, he had 4 or 5 birdies in those 7 holes. And now, granted, he hit some great tee balls that left him in some very good situations to make birdie. But to me, the most impressive thing about his game was his wedge play. his wedge play was phenomenal. Now, it could just be I'm not used to playing with guys that are that good, but some of the shots he hit around the green and from 30 or 40 yards out were just incredible. I mean, it's one thing to drive the ball that far, but you can't pull out the driver once you get 40 yards from the green.
Yeah.
What else can you do? What else can you do to score? And the wedge shots he hit around the greens with short or no green to work with, whether it was playing at the back of his stance and chasing the ball to the pin, or front of his stance and hitting flop shots or spinners that when you have to hit where you have no green to work with, to get it to stop quicker. Yeah. But his touch was just incredible. And that stood out to me more than anything. And talking to the guys in the parking lot afterwards, they're all talking about how far he hits it and everything else. And it's like, yeah, but those wedges though, like, did anybody else see that? I was like, he's hitting shots with wedges that are just blowing my mind. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was a good feeling for sure. To reunite with him and catch up with him.
Yeah.
But also know that there are plenty of bigger fish that are higher on the food chain than you are, you know? So it's very humbling.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome, man. Shoot, I got caught up in that story, dude. That's awesome. You know, Hughes, one of the things I meant to ask you early on that I forgot was who everybody when they get into something, because you love golf.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Who originally inspired you?
my dad.
Well, I'm sorry. Outside of your dad, did you have like a favorite golfer?
Okay. Oh yeah.
A pro golfer?
Growing up, it was Sergio Garcia.
Yeah.
Sergio was kind of everything that golf wasn't. Yeah. He was emotional and fiery and emphatic and just lively.
He went against the grain.
Yes.
So kind of like Hughes Barton.
Kind of like Hughes Barton.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You identified early.
More than me, though. Yeah. At some point, I get back in line. But he's, you know, that's just what he was. Yeah. You know, he's brash and just, he wore his emotions on his sleeve. Mm-hmm. There was no hiding how he felt, you know, whether it was joy or anger or whatever the case may be. Now, my dad, he didn't like Sergio for a lot of those reasons. Yeah. So growing up, we would always, he liked Freddie Couples a lot, who was very successful in his own right. And Sergio, man, being a fan of Sergio growing up was like being a Bills fan in the 90s. Yeah. Just a bunch of almost and maybes. Just heartbreaking. You know, he'd have the lead after 54 holes and then he'd choke on Sunday, you know, or so many final rounds I watched of him with a reasonable chance to win a big tournament, and he just let me down, dude.
Did you get to a point where you like knew it was coming?
Man, I just felt like he's just got to break through eventually. You know what I mean? He's so good. Like, but it's just so hard to put together 4 rounds of golf on an incredibly difficult golf course against the best players in the world.
On a huge stage.
On a huge stage with a lot at stake. Yeah. You know, it's just hard. It's difficult. Yeah. And he...
Almost an understatement.
Right. And he had other victories, right? He had other tour wins. But in golf, you're judged on your major victories. Yeah. The 4 majors being Masters, U.S. Open, British Open, and the PGA. Gotcha. And it's like, I mean, it's your Super Bowl in other sports or your NBA finals. Yeah. Like nobody, you know, you don't hear about Charles Barkley being phenomenal. I mean, he was a great player. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But you don't bring up Charles Barkley when we're talking about GOAT players or like top 10 of all time, or when in reality, Charles Barkley put up phenomenal numbers for years and years at his position that he was undersized for. Yeah. But he didn't win any rings. And that's how you're judged in these sports. Tom Brady, your favorite athlete, a lot can be said about Tom Brady. Were his stats accurate in terms of like he played such a long time, like maybe they're a little more watered down than somebody's per game stats. Yeah. You can say he's a cheater because he probably is. Oh. But more importantly, he's won Super Bowls. Yeah. And that can't be disputed. Yeah. I mean, and that's why if he's not in your top 1 or 2 for a quarterback, you're just not going to be taken seriously.
Yep.
I hate Tom Brady. As a Dolphins fan, he abused my team for years and years and just gave us pretty much 2 automatic losses every season. Yeah. So I hate Tom Brady as much as the next guy. And his wife's hot. There's tons of reason to hate the guy. But you can't argue with greatness, man. Right. I mean, he's great at what he does because he on the big stage where it matters most, he usually delivers.
Yeah.
He delivers more often than not, which is insane when you think about it.
Yeah.
So.
And you've made this point before, and this is another point I love. That's another thing I love about golf, is that, you know, even with, I know that's not the point you're making, but even with Tom having all those Super Bowls and AFC Championship appearances and yada, whatever it is, crazy seasons, there's still this little bitty open space now. It's gotten a lot smaller over the years.
Yeah.
For debate about whether or not he's the greatest.
Yeah.
And
I live in that space. You know I do.
I know you live in that little bitty space.
That small little side, just squeeze right in there. I've camped out there for years.
And you try to just blow it open.
Yes, every time.
But the thing about golf is that when a player wins in golf, you've said this before, if he wins, it's all on him.
Yeah.
If he loses, it's all on him.
Yep.
It's not like we had this open area for people to say, Tom Brady wins. They say, oh, he had a great defense. You know, or if he loses, they say, the defense was shit. You know what I mean? It's like, no, in golf,
all the credit, all the blame.
And that's a great thing about it.
It's what makes it, to me, the most beautiful game in the world.
Yeah.
And I know I'm biased, but there's nothing like it. You know, for somebody that's a competitor, I think that's what makes it great. I think that's the number one selling point for golf.
Yeah.
Somebody that doesn't like to compete, you know, maybe more of a team thing. They're not as much as inclined to participate in like an individual sport like golf was. But for me, having been on a high school team that was poor in golf, I mean, I lived for the individual tournament at the end of the year, you know, because I had a chance to like make some noise.
Yeah.
And I that's just what I love about golf, man. I love the kind of all on your shoulders mentality. You know, like you're responsible for your fate, and it's not going to be controlled by anyone else but you.
Yeah.
So,
imagine it could be a really tough sport for those people out there. You've met them that they want to blame other people for.
Well, sure.
Yeah, it'd be real tough for you there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another reason that, and I want to say this for anybody that's just getting started, because I just got started 2 years ago. I have to agree with you. It is a great sport. And the reasons I think it's great, some of the reasons are for what we just talked about, but also, you know, number one, it's a sport you can play for a long time. Like if your kids are, I would recommend anybody that, you know, you think your kid would be remotely interested in it, I would try to get them started as soon as possible.
As soon as possible.
But also it's just like it's not hard on your body. You can play it forever.
If you can walk, you can play.
And it's great for you. I feel like I got, in the last couple of years, I've gotten plenty of great exercise out there on the course. It's great camaraderie. You're out in nature. It's just an absolute blast. And I'm sad that it took me to 30 to really realize how good it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, I say all that. I do want to say, and you can confirm this. You know, it can be a little expensive, right?
Yes.
Over the years,
definitely.
So you got to keep that in mind. But people spend money on all kinds of stuff, and why not spend it on golf? It's a great sport.
Sure.
One of the things I wanted to ask you was, and I think you've talked about this with me before, is how much do you think equipment is going to affect somebody's game?
I don't think it affects it as much as people make it out to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to get caught up in these new club releases that are occurring every year, and new technology they're claiming, and all sorts of stuff. TaylorWood's got this TaylorMade. Their new stealth drivers, where they have they're claiming they have this new carbon wood technology. But Callaway announced on Twitter, and I had forgotten this. I didn't remember it. 20 years ago, they released something with carbon wood technology.
Mm.
So, I mean, is it as new as they're making it out to be? I mean, I don't know. It's like anything else. You talk to a rep or a brand ambassador for that brand, it's the best product on the market, you know?
Yeah.
There's no close second. They've got a cousin and a brother who had this driver, then they switched to that one because they hit it 80 yards further and
Yeah.
straight every time. And you know what I mean? I mean, that's all horseshit. I mean, it doesn't matter. But now I would say that being fitted for clubs, I think ultimately would take you, if you're looking to be like a great golfer,
Yeah, sure.
I think being fitted for clubs is huge. I wouldn't do that. I don't know if I'd do that with like a younger person coming up because they're still growing and changing all the time with their body and stuff. But if you're a grown man or a grown woman and you're done growing, you're not getting any taller, your golf swing probably isn't going to change quite as much other than the occasional lesson. So your point of contact isn't going to change as much. Right. So getting a club that suits you as far as the loft and the lie and the length, very, very important when it comes to going from good to great. Yeah. But you can give Tiger Woods a Walmart set of golf clubs, and he can beat anybody out at the Muni any day of the week. Yeah. So in the end, I mean, skill is going to matter more than anything else.
Sure. Sure.
But there's something to be said for having correctly fitted clubs, and there's also something to be said for kind of the placebo effect that a new club gives you. Yeah. Which maybe it's not that real, but it feels real, and that's sometimes enough to get the job done.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I first started, I went out and got some really cheap clubs just to, at your advice, by the way, to which is great advice, to just, get the feel for the game and that sort of thing. And then...
Remember that rescue you got?
That rescue, I love that rescue.
He about wore the paint off that thing.
Still got that bad
Yeah,
boy.
you love that thing, man.
Good, great.
I remember playing with you, and not to cut you off, but I remember playing with you, and you hit that rescue better than any club in your bag. Oh, yeah. Hands down. And I think you were putting the same swing on all your clubs. Mm-hmm. So I think it was just kind of familiarity with the rescue, and you had success with it, so you kind of got attached to it, Yeah. But this guy, man, I'd be playing with him, and he'd have he hit his rescue 170 to 190 yards or something like that. Well, we'd have 150 on a hole or 140 on a hole, and he'd pull out his rescue, and I'd say, "What are you doing?
Are you sure you can use the rescue?"
Yeah, and he'd say, I'm not gonna hit it as hard." And I'm like, "Dude."
Pass the hole.
Yeah, that's why you got a whole club or a whole bag full of different lofted clubs, Right. But you were comfortable with that rescue. It was like a security blanket almost, you know. Yeah. So it's hard to get away from when you have a comfort like that with one club.
Sure, definitely. It was had to wean myself off of that club. Had to really be like, okay, other clubs need they need attention
only when
too.
I need it,
Yeah. Like I was saying, when I went and got my new clubs, it was just the grip. I guess I could have changed the grips on the old ones, but obviously it was new grips, and it was just like fitted to me, fitted to my height. My whole swing and everything was better. Yeah, my play improved in my opinion. I mean, I'm still not a great golfer, but I just overall it was a better experience for me. So I'm really glad I went and got. And I will tell you the big thing for me was getting a new driver, because my driver was really crap, honestly. And I do hit my new driver a lot better than I'm still, putting in the trees quite a bit, but much better.
I think for you, it also helped that you know it better than anyone, but you're really good with money financially, and that was a large investment to make. You spent $2,000 or over $2,000 getting all those clubs. Yeah. So to me, it felt like, man, if he really likes this sport, he can always order clubs, and I feel like once he orders those clubs and drops that kind of money on it, I know him. He doesn't make unnecessary purchases. He's pretty frugal. Yeah. He'll dedicate time because he's dedicated so much money into those clubs. Yeah. And you did. I mean, it took you from a like to a love. And you wanted to go out there and hit those clubs and put them to work because you in your mind, I would think you had no excuses. You know what I mean? You had top of the line equipment. Yeah. It's just you now. That's all there is.
Oh, pressure.
Yeah.
And another set of line of thinking on that was, like you said earlier, I'm done growing.
You're done.
I'll have those clubs from now on.
You'll be a little fella forever. You ain't gonna grow no more.
You're disrespectful. Well, yeah, Hughes. I think, man, we covered a lot today.
We did, dude. I enjoyed this.
This has been a good experience. Just a couple, maybe one more question before you go.
Sure.
Here. I've asked you this before, but I want you to tell the audience, what's the best round you've ever had?
So the best round in a match, was 69 at Indian Hills my junior year of high school. But when you're growing up playing golf, you're kind of judged in terms of like college scholarships. You're judged on how you play on the summer tour more so than golf matches for your school. So I played in a lot of like junior tour events and stuff like that around Middle Tennessee. Won a couple, so I got to feel what that felt like, you know. But the last tournament I played in was at a tournament at Smyrna, and I believe I shot 68, I believe, and that was with a double on the last hole. I was 6 under, I believe, going into 18, and the juices are flowing, feeling good, you know, right in the middle of the fairway. Step up to my iron shot. I mean, I've been puring them all day, so why isn't this going to be any different? And I hit it, man. I hit it so good. And I can remember watching it and being like, be right. You know what I mean? Like, it was all over it. It went over the green, over the net, behind the green. I just had so much adrenaline going, you know what I mean, that I just launched it. I hit that club, you know, 25 yards further than I normally do. Yeah. On a hole you couldn't do that in. So I made a double on 18. Luckily, I had a big enough lead where I can kind of limp across the finish line and still won. But
so you finished 4 under.
Yeah, I believe I finished 4 under, 68, par 72 with that course.
And you won the tournament.
Won the tournament.
Incredible.
Second place was Lexus, my high school teammate. Yeah. So that was kind of sweet, you know, for sure. But that was I can't remember a better moment than that, honestly, on the golf course.
You know, that's awesome, but that would piss me off.
Yeah.
You got all the way there. You're 6 under going into the hole, and you double bogey. Holy smokes, bro.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there looking at it like...
You could have shot a 65.
I'm looking at it like...
or what? That would have been
well, when it's in the air, I'm thinking, might be 7 under. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I'm thinking. Yeah. But not like I had a round earlier this year at Smyrna. Yeah. I shoot... what did I shoot? 6 over on the front 9. I'm playing with like 2 random guys they paired me with. Yeah. And this round sums up golf in a nutshell. I shoot 6 over on the front 9. I can barely hit my ass with 2 hands. Yeah. I can't do anything. Everything's wrong. I'm not making any putts. I'm hitting it all over the place. Yeah. Just a disaster. When I get on the back 9, I shoot 5 under on the back 9. I shoot 31. I make 5 birdies and 4 pars. And I couldn't, it felt like every putt I made, I mean, I think the closest one was 12, 15 feet. I mean, it just felt like every putt was going in. At the line, I just saw every line the way it should be. Yeah. And the guys I were playing with, they were rooting me on. Obviously, they were 2 really good dudes. Yeah. But they were like, man, you're so good at putting. And I was like, man, I'm not going to lie. Putting is a strength. I was like, but this is like...
I'm not this good.
This is an out-of-body experience. I was like, I don't know what's happening right now. It doesn't feel like me.
Did you
know
stop
what I mean?
and drink something weird at the clubhouse on the way through? Or?
No, dude. But if I did, I should plug it right now and get you a sponsorship. So I got a Deer Park water at the clubhouse, believe it or not. And yeah, man. I don't know what changed, dude. But it just... sometimes you see a putt go in and it just kind of changes your mindset and... Yep. You see one more go in, and with each one that falls, you get a little more confident, and before you know it, you look up and you put together a hell of a scorecard, or a hell of a back 9 at least, Sure. So.
All right, I know I said that was going to be the last thing.
Dude, I'm here as many as you want.
One more question for the audience.
Sure.
For those guys out there, especially those guys that are similar to me, shooting in the hundreds or around 90s and everything, what's the best thing that you think we can do? If you could say one thing, the best thing that we can do to just... see our score continue to come down?
Man, I know it's a broad and generalized answer. But the best thing you can do is to play in any capacity. Gotcha. And whether that means going to the putting green on your lunch break for 40 minutes or hitting a bucket of balls, while your wife's at the store. It doesn't have to be a full 18 round. I'm a big fan of practicing on the course. Yeah. I think it's more realistic than hitting off a mat at some driving range. Yeah. For me, when I go out to practice now at Stones River, putting's the best thing I do. So a lot of the times, man, I leave my putter in the cart. Yeah. I'll hit my driver and I'll hit I'll hit my irons, and I'll even hit a couple extra balls in the fairway if it's a slow day and no one's out there. But when I get to the green, around the green, I bring a wedge with me, and I don't bring a putter.
Yeah.
I force myself to use the wedge because that's what I'm weakest at. My chipping is not good.
Gotcha.
So I'm not going to practice something as much that I'm already good at. You need to practice what you're weak at.
Understand.
So like we talked about earlier, in golf, you're only as good as your misses.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're only as good as your weaknesses too. You know, that's the same, along the same lines as that. So
it's that bottleneck in your game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So being able to realize what the areas of your game that you need to work on the most, and focusing in on those. You know, if you drive the ball 300 yards, that's great. Yeah. That's great. And I'm not saying you shouldn't practice that, because you should. Mm-hmm. But I know it's real easy when you hit it 300 yards to go to the driving range and hit 40 drivers. But maybe that's not what you need to do. Maybe you need to hit some 5 irons, some 6 irons, some 7 irons.
Yeah.
You know, still hit a few drivers, but maybe it doesn't require as much of your attention as another area of your game.
Sure, that makes perfect sense.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, Hughes.
Yeah, man. I enjoyed this. You got a great setup in here.
Thanks, brother. I've really appreciated having you on. I know the audience has enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.
Enjoyed it, dude.